Good day. We are the Group 6 and our topic is all about social stratification. So first, I will introduce my group mates. So, Decadet Dutilius, Rachel Kent, Decadet Duca Charlie Vincent, and yours truly, Decadet Iscari Domin. For the learning objectives of this topic, first, explain the meaning of the social stratification and the criteria on which it is based. Explain the functionalist and conflict views of social stratification. And third, identify the causes of social mobility and be more aware of the problems of people in lower class level. Social stratification is the process of assigning individuals to different social levels that differentiate them as superior or inferior, rich or poor. In effect, society is divided into the number of layers where people are ranked according to their class, status, and power. So, for example, a person who comes from a wealthy background, has a college education, and holds some level of influence is placed in a higher rank than someone with a blue-collar occupation. Theories on social stratification. According to Max Weber, class is based on three factors. Class or wealth, referring to a group of people who have similar level of wealth, ownership of objects, and income. So, is the value of a person's of family economic assets, including income, personal property, and income-producing property. So, for status or prestige, referred to people who have the same prestige or lifestyle. It's the regards with which a person or status position regarded by others. So, lastly, power is a man's ability to impose his or her over others. It's the ability of people or groups to achieve their goals despite opposition from others. So, according to Gerhard Lenski, observes that the development of technology was largely responsible for social stratification. It means that economic condition of a society improves significantly when its technology becomes more complex. Functionalist theory. People who perform special and difficult tasks which require special talent and training should be given special position in the society and must be highly compensated. So, for example, the government provides education for the children of the family, which in turn pays taxes on which the state depends to keep itself running. So, for conflict theory, believe that a stratification happens because some people submit themselves to manipulation. Baliao and Partco 72. The best-known conflict theorist was Karl Marx, who claimed that the conflict between the capitalist class and the working class lead to unequal distribution, ownership in societies, which resulted to social stratification. So, for example, conflict theory describes the relationship between employers and employees as one of conflict, in which the employers wish to pay as little as possible for the employees' labor, while the employees wish to maximize their wages. Categories of social stratification. So first, social class refers to a group of people who have the same amount of specific resources like wealth, education, and occupation. This we speak of the executive class or governing class. So, a social class is a grouping of people into a set of hierarchical social categories, the most common being the upper, middle, and lower classes. So membership is a social class can be dependent on education, wealth, occupation, income, and belonging to a particular subculture or social network. So, the other one is status. So sociologists use the term status to describe a social position that a person holds enables an individual to command prestige and esteem. By prestige, we mean the value attached to a position without regards to who occupies it. So there are three types of status. Achieved status is the social position attained voluntarily by a person through his or her own efforts. There are lots of success stones which portray this situation. And the second is master status. is a status that has special importance for social identity. It determines a person's general position in society. And lastly is described status, is a social position received by a person at birth or assigned by society without regard for the person's unique talents or characteristic. For example, on an heir of royal throne, there is a big business empire, so it's taken with eight or no choice at all. For example, being a nun, not a daughter, being a Filipino, a widow, or a poor child.
Good day everyone, especially Sir I'm the Godet Tutorials. Before I continue to explain my part, I will first explain the three kinds of study that the first reporter forgot to explain it. Social rule affects social status. The more significant the social rule, the greater the status is. Social rule is a collection of obligation of individuals who occupy a given social position or status. Social role is classified into, the first is rule requirements. It's what is expected from you. For example, if you are doctors are expected to play the part of doctors in your community, each of us perform some rules and sometimes perform them at the same time. Like for example, being a parent and a marine chief engineers at the same time, which represent multitasking people. They play an important role in the community. Even though it's not his specialty, they try their very best to balance at the same time. Second is role strain. Of course, when an individual is unable to fill the role because the same social position has a different demands and expectation. Example, a teacher's enjoys personal interaction with student, but at the same time notes that the social distance is needed in order to evaluate students fairly. They represent the equality or fairly obligation in order with their rule. He doesn't give special treatment even to those are close in their lives. He makes everyone fairly and equal. The third is role conflict. Of course, when contradictory expectations arise from two or more social positions held by the same time, as the same person. Example, being an officer of the church mandated youth organization and officer at the same of a notorious fraternity certainly requires incompatible expectation. Example, when you witness a crime being committed and you know the identity of the offender, you have the obligation to tell the authorities at the same time. You also have the rights not to put your life into dangers. In the Philippines, but there's a lot of disadvantages. If you are a witness, example, in the crime, but the suspect is so powerful or influenced, mas piliyon pa nimo mohilom kaysa naman nga mo witness ato nga crime kay tungod di ganahan maapil para naman sa simong kaayuhan o para sa imong pamilya, mao mas piliyon na lang nimo ang mohilom o dili mo witness ato nga crime. Now I will continue explaining the social stratification. Imagine two extremely wealthy people. One of them inherited their money, acquiring it through the luck that comes with being born to owners of immense amounts of property and wealth. And the other person worked for what they have. They started at the bottom, and through years of hard work and cleverly dealing, they built a business empire. Now, which one would you say deserved the wealth? Sociologically, the interesting thing here is not your answer. Not really is the fact that different society in different times and place have different answer to do this question. Because the question of what it means to deserve wealth or success or power is a matter of social stratification. Power is with or is without the ability, the consent of an individual must people to influence, feel uncomfortable other people with to do what idea with she or he without their consent attached to power. It appears that it internationally dominates other or even exploit them. In fact, some prominent figures have made unpleasant remarks about power. Power is position. Power is an utility and individual ability to control or direct other people, while authority is influence that is predicted on perceived legitimacy. There are three major types of power: influence, resources, control, and authority. Influence refers to informal power based on persuasion rather than Current and force which authorities possesses person may have a minor authority but much influence. Example, a barangay tanod who is a close friend of a mayor has little authority but great influence. In Philippines, like a son of a mayor or a son of general on the police or army, they have a minor authority but much influence to the people. Resources control is a power that refers the possession of wealth. If one is rich, then he or she could influence other behavior. For me, the example of this is the power of money. Because of money or resources, because of money, you can make people follow you, and they will follow you because of the power of money or resources. Authority refers to socially approved and legitimate power to make the decision binding on the other obligatory. Max Weber identified three types of authority: traditional, legal, rational, and charismatic. The first is traditional authority, is the power granted according to custom. Hereditary, monarchies, and tribal chieftainship are examples. A good example of a traditional authority system would be a monarchy. Most governments throughout history have led according to this form of authority. In these forms of domination, subordinates accept the types of authority. They refrain from challenging the traditional rights of powerful groups or individuals. The second is legal rational authority, is the power granted according to a formal set of rules and procedures. For example, being a mayor. Another example of these types of authority, official elected by voters, rules that are in the constitution or policies that are witnessed formal documents. The third is charismatic authority. It's based on the unique personality of a particular person. Oftentimes, these extraordinary characters is linked to supernatural being. Example are Jesus Christ, Gandhi, Hitler, Napoleon, and Felix Manalo. Charismatic authority is defined by leaders who use his or her communication skill, persuasiveness, and charm to influence others. Charismatic leaders, given their ability to connect with people on a deep level, are especially valuable within organizations that are facing a crisis or are struggling to move forward. Social class in the Philippines. Some Filipino authors suggest that social class in the Philippines can usually be expressed in the three major categories, whereby each category consists of three social class based on certain economic consideration. Azanza indicates these classes as follow. The first is upper categories, is composed of the upper class, the middle upper class, and the lower upper class. The old rich families, big businessmen, and corporate types belong to this class. The individuals who belong to upper categories are so rich and powerful that their decisions can affect and change the lives of so many people, especially the poor. Example in Philippines like Villar family, the Boites, and Ayala family. The second is middle category. It is composed of the upper middle class, the middle class, and lower middle class, small enterprise owners, agribusiness owner, agribusiness owners, some education administrators, bank and department stores, managers, and high-ranking seafarers belong to this class. These categories is made up of people who live a relatively comfortable life. Master and chief engineers of foreign vessels belong to upper middle class category. For me, the good example is in the middle class is the convenience store engineers, captain on ship, managers, and etc. The third is lower category. Is composed the upper lower class, the middle lower class, and the lower class. To this level belong the factors and skilled workers, small farmers, store clerks, official office workers, masters or stores owners, laundry workers, drivers, household servants, and other people on hand to manage existence. Generally, the lower class categories earn lesser and are underpaid. They are also known as Thai working poor. The lower class is characterized by unemployment and poverty. For me, example, service employees, lower level manual laborers, and the unemployed, and also bigger or pulubi and garbage men. But what is poverty? There are two types of poverty, the relative and absolute. The relative poverty is an economic condition of the people who belong to the lower class and are judged to be disadvantaged in comparison with others. Absolute poverty is an economic condition of the people who belong to the lower class and are judged to be incapable of sustaining minimal foods, clothing, and shelters in the Philippines. Poverty is always refers to absolute poverty. Social mobility. Social mobility is the movement of people from one social position to another. There are two major kinds of social mobility and vertical. Horizontal mobility is a movement from one occupation to another within the same social class. There is a change of status but without consequence change of class. For example, a teacher of a prestigious school who become school officials of a non-so prestigious school does not receive greater salary, and prestige is an example of horizontal mobility. A janitor who becomes a gardener is an example too. Second is vertical mobility, is moving upward or downward in the occupation status or social class. Vertical mobility is career mobility, which refers to change in employment status. In many industries, there's are a lot more of upward and downwards career mobility because these industries require continuous training and schooling, education, and evaluation of their employees. Those who passes through the work evaluation rose up, while other who failed must go down the structure or stay where they are. Example, a bank manager demonstrated to assistant manager. A farmer who becomes mayor or a second engineer rose to the bank of chief engineers of the vessels. Or in short, life changes. That's all. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Open versus closed stratification system. In a closed system of stratification is a little or no opportunity to advance from the social class to another. Social status is a hereditary based on a group of characteristics. For example, ang closed stratification system kay it's like wala kay choice to change your status. Like for example, gipanganak ka nga pobre, mao na jud ang status for the rest of your life. Wala kay freedom to change your status. And open system describes a society with mobility between different social classes. Individuals can move up or down in the social rankings. This is unlike the closed system, where individuals are set in one social position for life despite. Example ni kay while sa open stratification system kay na kay freedom na change ang imong status sa life, like sa imong level nimo sa society by making your own choice. Slavery. In a system of stratification in which one person owns another as he or she would own property and exploits the slave's labor for economic gain. Slaves are one of the lowest categories in any stratification system, as they possess virtually no power or wealth of their own. Example na is ang slavery kay isa ka sa form of inequality. Ang isa ka tao with high position of life kay naay ability or power to own another person na mauna niya ang yang slave. Sa Tagalog pa yan ang alipin. Pwede niya i-own ang tao or paliton. Iya ang nasweldohan. And usually sa mga slave, kato ng mga low ang status sa life or mga pobre in short. Ang mga slaves ang mga pinaka-low status sa stratification system kay sila ang mga walay power, walay voice, and walay freedom para mabuhat ilang gusto. Despite na jud sila in a society, mao jud na ilang role. Ang mga nagtrabaho is perming pinaka-low sa tanan and the rest of their lives. Gates system. System are closed and stratification system where people can do little or nothing to change the social standing of their birth. The caste system determines all aspects of the individual's life, occupation, marriage, partners, and housing. Ang caste system is somewhat mag-determine na siya sa future sa isa ka tawo. If you were born from a poor or katong mga na sa low sector, di haro jud kataman mao na jud na ang ibang status and dili na sa mausab. Ang i-base nila na kay ang status jud sa life kung gikan ba sa high or low sector. Although naay uban niya low sector sila high wealth or let's say example nga na sila nga kaya ra pod na ay kayutaan or unsa pa ba na diha nga pwede pod mo tupong-tupong sa high sector pero dili gyapon sila accepted sa high sector basta sa ngalan nga gikan sila sa low sector. So in short, na discrimination sa status sa life. And that's all. Thank you.